Is higher ed political? Could it be? Even in the area of space, campus planning, space analytics? Hmm. Let's dive into that this week, shall we? Today, we bring you a part two of our special Bowtie Tuesday with Alyson Goff, our Senior Director of Insights and Strategy, where we keep discussing her blog, Space Management is Having Its Heyday, and talking in depth about the politics of space planning. We hope you enjoy. So excited, Alyson, to talk to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me again. Happy to be here.
Here we go. Politics. Politics and donor influence often complicate space decisions. From your perspective, what are the best ways to push for more data-informed, mission-driven decision making in those critical moments? Gosh, that's a big one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Knowledge is power. And so I remember, when I was working at an institution and really developed a partnership with our institutional advancement team. So they managed, the alumni group, the foundation, and they said, okay, help us understand what the needs are. Unfortunately, deferred maintenance isn't sexy, so that was hard to get them to pitch. So it was like, okay, tell me, about, we need a classroom upgrade. So how, tell me about that. And so I think it really is how, I lean back on comprehensive campus planning, so sometimes called a master plan. um, I think having some type of guide, some type of framework that says, okay, this is what we see as our physical vision over the next X number of years. That can be simply your 5-year capital plan. It could be your 10-year master plan. It could be a 30-year framework. But it's, that typically is aligned with strategic plan, academic planning. And so I think having them as partners so they understand that, what when a top priority is a new academic building or a new research building, how could they potentially position their relationship building with donors, to be in line with what we're quantitatively and qualitatively saying we need. I think there's also the reality. I love policy. So making sure that there is some type of policy framework, particularly around naming conventions or naming rights. I think that can help set some guardrails. Um, but finally, also appreciating that at the end of the day, if the fourth project on your priority list walks up and hands you 75% of the funding, you're not going to say no. But I think if you've put everything else in line and made good partners of that group, that then you're going to get something that is reflecting what is good for the institution. So it's definitely a delicate balance, but I think putting those, you know, parameters in place can be helpful and help maybe navigate some of the stickiness of donors and space politics.
Not wanting to put words in your mouth, but one thing I kind of caught from there, and tell me if you agree, is that if you've got that data transparency, if you're tracking the right sets of metrics and there's a shared conversation, it sounds like when these political, you know, donor-led discussions might happen, and they inevitably will, you're still able to take your data sets and make the right prioritizations and appeasing all these different stakeholders in the conversation. Is that a fair way of explaining sort of how you can make sure your decisions aren't political, or donor led, but more like what's best for our key stakeholder, which is our students?
Yeah, no, I think it is. And I think I would, maybe just highlight that you're using the data to tell a story. And people who work in donor relations love stories. I mean, that is what they're doing when they're, building a relationship with the potential donor. And so making sure that it's not, I mean, that it's not just a bunch of data points, that it's okay, what does that data tell me? And I think that is helping, your partners tell the story effectively. And I feel like that is universal across,
Right.
so many aspects. But yeah, I think if you understand the story, if you understand the why, how we get there is much easier, because we're working toward the same goal.
Excellent. Gosh, Allison, it's always wonderful to talk to you. So happy to hear your insights into higher ed and how space management is having, a great time right now. And that's such a win for everybody involved, right? Because you're getting data informed, you're making good decisions for the students and for the campus faculty and staff. And it doesn't feel like as much of a guessing game if you've gotten your systems and data set up correctly. Um, so thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of another Bowtie Tuesday, and I hope you have a wonderful week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.